Tonight, join host Nicole Hales, political analyst and acting director of institutional research at the NCU, Paul Bourne, and vice president of the PNP, Damian Crawford, as they discuss the PNP's manifesto on Decision 2020. Still tonight, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the rise in COVID-19 cases is cause for concern, but is urging Jamaicans not to panic. And Jamaica Medical Doctors Association joins forces with the Medical Association of Jamaica to express concerns regarding the surge in COVID-19 cases. Good evening. We begin with breaking news as Minister of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Carl Samuda, announced a short while ago that there will be a delay in the reopening of schools until Monday, October 5, amidst the spike in COVID-19 cases. Now, as we continue to bring you full coverage of political campaigns, debates and constituency profiles, join host Nicole Hales in this evening's discussion with political analyst and acting director of institutional research at the Northern Caribbean University NCU, Paul Bourne, and vice president of the People's National Party PNP, Damian Crawford, as they discuss the PNP's manifesto. We will also be hearing from the Jamaica Labour Party's candidate for South St. James, Homer Davis, who will speak on his plans for the constituency. Still making the news tonight, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, while speaking at a press conference held earlier today, says the rise in COVID-19 cases is cause for concern. He also urged Jamaicans not to panic.
As of yesterday, we had 31 persons hospitalized, including suspected positive cases of COVID-19. We also have 55 persons isolated in government facilities, 336 isolated at home, and 9 quarantined in a government facility. We also have 28,741 persons quarantined at home. I quite well know and understand that most Jamaicans would see this as cause for panic. I would say yes, it is a cause for serious concern, but not a cause for panic. You will recall in previous press conferences that I have said that we expect that there will be increases in our numbers, particularly as a result of the reopening of our borders and the reopening of the economy towards its full operating capacity. We have also said that now we are in the phase of managing risks, and we have done a very good job in managing the risks of reopening our borders and reopening our economy. We are transitioning into the phase of living with the COVID-19 disease, the coronavirus, which causes the disease.
Prime Minister Holness also announced curfews for some parishes.
You can rest assured that the government continues to make the best decisions in terms of ensuring your safety, but also ensuring your livelihood. So we're seeing a clustering of cases occurring within the corporate area, and the Cabinet met this morning to discuss the issues thoroughly, and we got a thorough briefing from the CMO and the Minister of Health and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, and we have decided that we will take some additional measures. So, effective tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. until September 2, 2020, for the parishes of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and Clarendon, the new curfew hours will begin at 7 p.m. in the evening to 5 a.m. the following morning, repeated until September the 2nd at 5 a.m. We will, of course, make the allowance for 1 hour before and 1 hour after the curfew for public transport operators to be able to move from home to their point of pickup and from point of pickup to their home afterwards.
Mr. Holness also gave an update on what is prohibited during the political campaigns leading up to the election.
Cannot put in place these measures without also paying keen attention to the possible impact of campaigning on the numbers. The truth is that it just takes one errant person who is not following the protocols to come in the midst of a campaign event, even if it is just 20 persons, and infect the entire gathering. So we have consulted with the opposition. They have been notified of this, that motorcades in the conventional sense will be prohibited. This is to say that motorcades with more than 2 buses, which we call coaster buses, motorcades that are stopping and greeting, motorcades that are carrying persons by bus, that will be prohibited, and the police have been advised.
Mr. Holness also outlined what the government has decided to allow during the political campaigns and meetings.
We will allow drive-thrus, meaning that the political party should present a route to the police commander in charge of the respective areas they intend to tour, and they can drive through but not stop and greet. So it would be merely a driving through, displaying their signs, banners, paraphernalia, but there will be no stopping and greeting, so there should be no gathering at any point. The persons in the motorcade will not be, within the drive-through rather, would not be allowed to alight from their vehicles and go and mix and mingle with the crowd. We will ask the police to observe and report on this activity, and if the report is one that suggests that it is not being followed, then we will have to ban all kinds of such campaign activities. We will still allow 5 persons, as was the agreement between the political parties on the advice of the CMO and with the oversight of the Ombudsman, that 5 persons may go house to house, door to door, whether it is for campaigning, distribution of materials, but there can be no large groups other than 5 persons doing campaigning.
Stay tuned for the full broadcast of the Prime Minister's press conference held earlier today after this news broadcast. Still making Mello TV news, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company Limited, JUTC, is advising the public that its operating hours will be impacted following the announcement of the new curfew that will take effect tomorrow, August 22. Buses that would normally be dispatched from as early as 4 in the mornings will now be dispatched at 5 a.m. This, the JUTC says, will mean that the first commute will likely take place at or around 6 a.m., while between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. buses are to return to their depots without passengers. JUTC is further urging passengers to not wait until the last minute to transact business and to be at the bus stop as early as possible, as some routes take up to 2 hours to complete. They are also encouraging commuters to top up their smarter cards, to eliminate the use of cash, and to wear their masks for the entire length of their journey. The new curfew will be imposed in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon and St. Thomas. In other news tonight, earlier today, the Ministry of Health and Wellness temporarily closed its New Kingston offices after an employee tested positive for COVID-19. The ministry says contact tracing is being done by the health department that will interview and test team members as necessary. Its Health Emergency Operations Center, which has been managing the national COVID-19 response, will continue to operate and work remotely or work from the facility as required. Now, the suspension of our operations will allow for sanitization in the building. However, the office building will reopen for normal operations on Monday, August 24. In other news tonight, the National Commercial Bank Jamaica Limited, NCB, has announced that one of its employees based at the Knutsford Boulevard branch in New Kingston has tested positive for COVID-19. Now, in a statement, the bank says the employee received confirmation of the positive COVID-19 test result yesterday, adding that details surrounding the affected team member are being withheld in order to protect the individual's privacy. The financial institution says this is the first confirmed COVID-19 case amongst its employees, and it wishes to assure the public that it has taken all the precautions to stem the spread of the virus within its facilities. In the meantime, the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, JMDA, has joined forces with the Medical Association of Jamaica, MAJ, to express grave concerns in relation to the increasing number of confirmed COVID-19 cases. The JMDA says, and I quote, "The health sector is stretched thin, and the blatant lack of adherence to the protocols established by the Ministry of Health and Wellness, MOHW, is only adding to this burden," end quote. Now, they expressed that the continuous flouting of these protocols, which was heightened during the holidays and on nomination day, raises serious concerns as it pertains to the safety of all Jamaicans during the upcoming elections. The association says that while they understand that citizens must be allowed to execute their constitutional right, they must be cognizant of the pandemic. Still making news tonight, the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF, has confined all military camps, bases, and duty stations, which took effect on Wednesday. The JDF says the confinement is aimed at keeping the soldiers in a safe, sterile environment, especially as the national COVID-19 numbers continue to spike. The JDF says it has recorded a total of 4 cases of the coronavirus among the soldiers since the pandemic began. Of the 4 cases, 1 has since recovered, and the other 3 are currently in isolation receiving treatment. Continuing with the news tonight, St. Anne's most wanted 34-year-old Orlando Chambers of Maxfield Avenue was fatally shot during an alleged confrontation with the police in his community in St. Andrew at approximately 5:50 a.m. yesterday. According to the police, a Bersa 9mm pistol containing a magazine with 1 round of ammunition was seized. Now, the police say that Chambers was listed as a person of interest in several murders and shootings in St. Anne that date back to January 2019. As we continue with the news, the Ministry of Justice will be allotting $43 million in renovations at the St. James Parish Court. The renovations will include a ramp that will be erected to allow wheelchair access for the elderly and infirmed. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says that renovations are part of the ministry's ongoing renovation and maintenance of courts towards enhancement of the built environment for justice service delivery. In excess of $700 million was spent in the 2019-2020 financial year to renovate the built environment that supports the justice sector. The Justice Minister noted that this ongoing renovation and refurbishment is having a positive effect on public trust and confidence in the justice system. The current renovations are expected to take 4 months. Meanwhile, approximately $652.5 million will be spent to renovate justice sector infrastructure during this financial year, including the continued refurbishment of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and renovation of the historic Manchester Parish Court that was damaged by fire last November. Still making Mello TV news, the People's National Party, PNP, is calling for bold action and a different approach to the management of the foreign exchange market to protect the Jamaican people during the economic crisis of the global pandemic. The People's National Party says that the devaluation of the Jamaican dollar is driving up the prices of goods and services, including transportation, electricity, and basic food items, and unleashing a wave of hardship on the population. The PNP also says that Jamaica needs an emergency economic program that supports expansion of the productive and export sectors and ensures that these sectors are prioritized in the allocation of scarce foreign exchange. And those were the stories making news. I am Shelley Ann Hill. We'll now join Nicole Hales with Decision 2020.